Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Myke Ames, and welcome to another new whiskey order tasting. Today, we are going to be doing Architects, a celebration of spectacular whiskey, spectacular people. And speaking of spectacular people, we have a very special guest with us, Mr. Billy Walker. Good evening, sir.
Good evening to all of you. Thanks for the invite.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us. We're going to drink some very interesting whiskeys tonight. We're going to talk about production. We're going to talk about the industry. I imagine we're going to have some very interesting conversations here. So, welcome everybody. We're going to get things kicked off. I got Tim MacKenzie here with us to help us walk us through the whiskey. How are you doing, Tim?
I am lovely. Great to see all these fantastic faces in front of us. Based on these noses, I know that we are in for a big, big treat. So buckle up, everybody, and we're gonna get into some fantastic, fantastic single malt.
The last couple of tastings have set the bar high. We've had two no dogs in a row. Can we go for the natural hat trick? I feel like we can. I think with this lineup, we're in an excellent position to do so. Speaking of no dogs, we got the guy who picks all these whiskeys, Russell, and his dinosaur shirt. How are you, buddy?
Hey everybody. Good morning to everybody.
I think we're into the
We're
afternoon
in the
now.
afternoon. All right, all
Even
right.
even James Bourne is awake now, so we should be good.
He looks ready to go. Look at him.
He's fired up
He is.
on
I can
BC
look at
time. You
that.
gotta love it. All right, so we're gonna get into things today. I'm gonna share some screens. We're gonna see some very cool slides Pat put together. Pat, how are you, buddy?
Very good. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, it's good to see you. Um, Again, Pat is our genius when it comes to the visuals. I'm sure everybody's had a chance to have a look at these labels. They're incredible. All the work that Pat puts in to give us that visual representation of how amazing these whiskeys are. So thank you, sir. Amazing job as always. So
Pleasure.
for today, we're going to be going through whiskeys. We're going to be talking about whiskeys. Um, During the time when we're actually tasting whiskeys and sharing notes, please feel free, unmute yourself, give us some notes, give us some ideas. The chat is always open. We'll be looking at that as well. But when we're into the presentation of the whiskeys and talking about the methodology and the histories and things like that, I'll ask most of you just to keep everything muted so we can focus on the discussions and we'll take it from there. So, having said that, let's go. So, as I said, we are so happy to have Billy Walker with us in the Architects. So, Billy, I'm going to just talk a little bit about you because we're excited about this. I'm sure many of our members are very familiar with your history and your contribution to the whiskey industry. But for those who may not be as familiar, Billy's been in the industry for well over 50 years. Um, has done production, blending, maturation, distillery management. Truly one of the most respected figures in the Scotch malt whiskey industry. So we're going to go through Billy's journey through that industry using six themes here that we put together, Pat put together. The foundation, development, creation, refinement, mastery, and legacy. Um, the whiskeys are mostly in order of ABV, so we're not burning everybody's palate out with the futures, and we'll make our way through that way. So, little bit of history. So, talking foundation, 1972 to 76, Billy was at Hiram Walker and Sons. Now, my understanding, Billy, is you came from a chemistry background into that role.
Yeah, I studied. I come from Dumbarton, which was a whiskey town, and certainly the spiritual home of Hiram Walker in Scotland. So there was an inevitability I would end up at Hiram Walker. But I studied chemistry at the University of Glasgow. And for the first few years, 4 or 5 years after leaving university, I actually worked as a pharmaceutical research chemist, which also I have to say was fascinating. But the boss, who was a genius, told me that only one person could win the Nobel Prize in chemistry, and he didn't think it was going to be me.
Can't say
So,
that was a bad result for the rest of us, to be totally honest.
We're okay with it.
Yeah,
so
who can we send thank you cards to? I guess would be our question.
I think he is. I think he is no longer with us. I think he's an alternate. He is an alternative world now. But he was a good guy.
Well, to
Brilliant.
him then.
So coming from that pharmaceutical background into Hiram Walker, what was the change in I guess the corporate culture like?
Well, it was. I mean, frankly, it was night and day. The kind of detail that you're involved in the pharmaceutical world is a different footprint from the whiskey world, but there are similarities. I have to say, Hiram Walker, fantastic company. And in the Barton, we had the Barton Grain. We had a Lomond malt whiskey and the Inverleven malt whiskey. And the experience was really, really interesting. It was very, very instructive, educational, and the company gave me an amazing amount of freedom to do virtually whatever I wanted to do. And in my opinion, the Barton Grain is and was the best grain whiskey that was ever produced. It was
Really?
the only grain that actually was had a filtered wort. Very crisp, very clean. Yeah, terrific. And I know Mr. Alistair has bottled a couple of Dumbarton grain casks. They are sensational, and if you can get your hands on one of these, you will have one to watch.
Okay, that is some good insight. I can see Tim making a mental note.
100%.
Gonna go look on the auction sites now.
I mean,
For us too.
I've had a handful of Dumbartons, and they were unique among other grains that I've had. So yeah, this absolutely tracks from my perspective too.
Absolutely, they are in a different ether. The
Yep.
Barton grain was a different ether. It's a shame that they actually closed the distillery. Shame.
So many great distilleries lost, unfortunately, but that's just the part of the history.
It's life, yeah.
Yeah. Well, before we get into development, I think probably the place we all want to go is the whiskey, so that we'll have a dram as we're discussing the next things. So first up will be the GlenDronach. So this is, I expect to be an absolutely brilliant whiskey. 33 years old, distilled in 1971, bottled in 2004, coming out of Oloroso sherry casks. Absolutely beautiful presentation on this particular bottle. And in terms of the palate, the notes, we've got spiced fruits, bitter chocolate sauce, walnut cake mocha, an alcoholic liquid dessert. Pat, you're getting me all fired up here, buddy. All right, so let's get into the whiskey. Tim, what do you got?
I mean, the nose is just so full, and there's density there. I get sultanas, a pipe tobacco, or a mild cigar. There's the fruitiness is just very sumptuous. It's plums and dates. Obviously, the oak has done its work here as well. There's just this lovely feeling of you're about to to taste something that those 30 years have really worked hard on. I do get a little bit of the GlenDronach DNA in there as well, but the cask has just done wonderful, wonderful things with the spirit. Anyone else have some notes that you'd like to chuck in? Feel free to, you can either write them or unmute, and we'd be happy to give you the floor. You guys know how this group works.
Well, we got some great notes in the chat. Billy, part of our kind of process here is we like to come up with names for these whiskeys if they were presented by SMWS. So Jake has got Bikini Clad Mama Melon Syrup. I like that one. Hawaiian Tropic Suntan Lotion.
Do you know what's really interesting is that this distillery, GlenDronach, has a wonderful history. And it was owned at one time by William Teachers, who were, in these days, a private company. And they were one of the early whiskey companies that recognized the contribution that sherry casks could actually make to the world of whiskey. But interestingly, and what you're getting from these casks is indeed the contribution, the experience that the sherry maturation period has actually contributed to the absorption into the cask. And what's really interesting these days, as it is today, sherry casks are not charred; they're only toasted. So you have you know that you can be very comfortable putting whiskey into these casks, and it will be a relatively slow absorption actually into the wood. Because they're not charred, you're going to get less influence from things like toffee, caramel, butterscotch. So the overriding influence is actually coming from the experience between the sherry and the actual absorption into the cask. The actual extraction from the cask is slower and longer. And as I say, you're not going to get heavy influence from butterscotch, caramel, toffee, these notes. It's nice. It's a nice dram. It's a shame it's at 40%.
Yeah, I hear you on that too. There is another note that I just picked up with how everyone in the group knows I like to do different amounts of the schnozzle, as I like to say, as we do in New Jersey. When you get really into it, I pick up an overripe banana that I didn't recognize before, and there's a almost like a salinity that kind of comes through that I don't typically analyze from GlenDronach, but here we are.
It's interesting. I actually have written down here plantain.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I can.
But
like
the
less
sweet banana.
Yeah, but I'm sure you guys have them in Canada and over in the UK, but like a sweet plantain that's been fried or even like air dried. So yeah, and almost like a slightly green vegetal note, kind of at the back end of the nose. But wow, what a stunner! What do you guys think, Myke?
I mean, we've been talking about it. We might as well drink it.
Do it.
Launch everyone.
While you're drinking, it's interesting with older whiskey. The expectation is that you should start picking up things like mango and pineapple. And the reason is that during the maturation process, the strength of the whiskey is falling by 0.4% of a degree of alcohol every year, approximately. And what that does is it's changing the solution characteristic of the whiskey. And that means that then, as the solution characteristic of the whiskey is changing, there's a different conversation going on between the whiskey and the cask. So you start extracting flavor components that will go into solution in lower strength alcohol, but not in higher strength alcohol.
Oh.
And during that process, and once you can get these fairly big molecules actually into the whiskey and the cask, then some very interesting spherification takes place, and you start getting long chain fatty esters. But essentially, it's giving you mango and pineapple. And I have to say, I'm searching for the pineapple in here. I'm not sure I'm finding it, but maybe on another day.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that like tropical sense that usually comes through after, like, the 20-year, 25-year point, especially when
Yes.
it really starts to pop. I don't get that here, but at this low ABV, talk about mouthfeel, and a ton of spiciness. I would think to the cask, but like a white pepper or a pink pepper, like almost an effervescence around the edges of the tongue. The palate.
And it's a really interesting observation, because these spicy notes in the cask is constructed from, in the actual oak itself, is cellulose, lignins, lipids, and tannins. The lignins are really important in terms of delivering the kind of notes you're talking about, spicy notes, nutmeg, cloves. I mean, I can talk for hours about how important the lignins are, but it's really nice that you're picking up these things. The science is very compelling.
Oh, I could honestly, you could talk forever, but I'm fully a student in awe right now. So I could hear it for
Believe me,
ages.
Billy, if there was ever a group to really nerd out about the science of whiskey, you're with us.
Yeah,
Okay.
you've definitely found your people for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. We're here for it. Absolutely.
So
Anybody
then
else
listen,
have?
there are
Oh,
two
sorry. Go ahead, Billy.
there are two components that emerge from the lignins, eugenol and isoeugenol. These are the components that deliver you these spicy notes: nutmeg, cinnamon, cloves, peppery notes, and they do other things as well. But these are the ones that are so important, and these come from extraction from the lignins.
Amazing. As soon as you said cinnamon, I was trying to tie something down within the finish of the whiskey, and it's Red Hots, the candy, and cinnamon right there. Obviously, is the main component to that candy. It's just, I'm honestly, if I had tasted this without knowing the ABV, I would have thought that maybe that was a factor too. But I think this was just a really, really well maintained cask that was bottled at exactly the right time.
What are we
Yeah,
thinking with this
I
Oloroso cask? Are we
I do
thinking
get some clove too.
yeah, 100%. Like a sweeter end of the clove.
Yeah.
It's absolutely stunning.
You
I don't
know,
get any off notes.
defining flavor, the flavor experience is always, for me, it's always fascinating, because it's a conversation between your palate and your brain. And sometimes you have to have experienced some of these far left notes that people talk about. But it's also, you can also be very suggestive. And if I said to you, you should be looking for cinnamon, then your mind starts looking for cinnamon. And
True.
the likelihood is you'll find it. If it's there, you'll find it.
Mm. I definitely find that the more like our membership during our tastings, the more membership is suggesting, that helps me sometimes to define specific notes. Like, I tell these guys and girls all the time that throughout my normal existence outside of drinking any type of spirit, I try to take nose and flavor snapshots so that I can revisit them. So if I'm tasting something and it has a very remarkable nose or palate, I try to take a second and just do that mental snapshot so that I can revisit it later. But yeah, this group is amazing at zeroing in on specifics and helping me get there too.
Good.
Anybody else? We've got some great notes in the chat too.
My glass is going down a bit too quickly, but now that it's almost at the end, I'm getting a bit of green pepper. And there's something about, I don't know if it's the sulfur from the cask, but it feels like it's almost peated a little bit. There's like if there was a hint of peat at the end, but I'm guessing it's the wood. It's very complex.
You know, it's funny. You know, I can tell you that the certainly the malted barley used for this would not have been peated. But sometimes if you overchar these, let me first of all say these casks have not been charred, so I'm talking kind of left wing at the moment. But if you char a cask and you overchar, you can actually create peated notes. You can actually create a compound called guaiacol, which you will find in peat, and will give you. It won't give you overwhelming smoky peaty notes, but it will give you peated notes. So if you heavy char a cask, you can actually create some peated influence without actually using a peated malted barley.
Interesting. So you can mimic the chemistry essentially.
You can mimic the chemistry, but not intensely. But
Sure,
you can actually deliver some light notes.
Right. Yeah. Those like wisps of peat.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to get Octomore levels, but maybe Ardmore-ish.
Yeah.
Yes, Ardmore-ish.
And there's not much more Moorish than Ardmore.
That is true.
A hugely understated distillery.
I'm
Agreed.
with you.
It's one of my favorites, and we try not to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't get blown out within the marketplace, we mean.
Exactly.
Yep.
Alrighty, so we're off to a good start, certainly.
Wow. I mean, the finish is just sitting in the back of my cheeks, right along the gum line. What a great way to begin this.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where you wake up the next morning after you've brushed your teeth and you're still getting tasting notes.
Yep. I'll not be washing that glass until tomorrow afternoon after I've smelt it again.
Love it. All right, so moving on into development, 1976 to 2002. So, Bill, you moved away from Hiram Walker and went to work with Inverhouse and Byrne Stewart.
Yes, but not directly. I actually left for 3 years and spent 3 years fermenting penicillin.
Wow.
As you do.
But it was boring, and so I was attracted to joining Inverhouse, which I can tell you was a fantastic experience. They were just an amazingly exciting, imaginative, experimental company.
And that's just where you want to be, for sure. So what kind of freedom did you have there to play?
Like total. It was a company, Inverhouse is owned by an American company called Publica, who are based in Philadelphia. Their primary reason for getting the distillery was to get grain and malt whiskey, make blended whiskey for a brand called Inverhouse, which was, significantly big and popular on the eastern side of the United States. We had on site, we had Garden Heath Grain Distillery. We had a couple of malt distilleries that produced mainly a single malt called Glenglassaugh. But we also owned Bladnoch for a wee while, so we had some really interesting opportunities to be creative. And they gave me total freedom to be as adventurous, imaginative as I wanted to be. But it was still a time in the industry where blended whiskey was the primary driver. Single malt was still the preserve of BenRiach, Glenlivet, to a lesser extent, Glenmorangie, and ones like Beaumont. But it was an interesting time. It was in many ways unstructured but exciting.
Did you have access to different types of stills, different equipment?
Yes, we had I think 4 different continuous stills, and we had 2 different styles of pot still. And we varied the cuts, we varied the barley varietal. We were up to all kinds of interesting equations.
That's amazing. So I know I speak for many in the group when I say a lot of us are looking not necessarily for great whiskeys, but interesting whiskeys. Of course, we always love a great whiskey, but the interesting ones are always the ones that really catch the attention of the group members. Anything produced from that era that's a little bit bonkers, a little bit oddball that we should be looking for in maybe some of the auctions?
I think if you could get your hands on a bottle of Glenfarclas, you will definitely have a prize in your hands. But even better if you open it and drink it. It wasn't a full experience, a full intense experience, but it was a really well balanced Lowland single malt. And we had Bladnoch for 2-3 years, and Bladnoch then was a really interesting style of whiskey. I'm not sure where the journey is just now. I haven't really tried an awful lot of Bladnoch, but it was a fantastic whiskey then. And in these days we used to classify whiskies by crack. There were 4 crack single malts, and then there was A, B, and C. The crack malts in these days were Mortlach, Cragganmore, Longmorn, and I think Cardhu. And then it was the rest. Did it actually reflect anything? I'm not sure. It probably reflected people's experience and the demand for particular styles of single malt.
Well, we've had some Longmores from that era, and some of them have been pretty bonkers for sure. What was your time at Burn Stewart like?
Oh, exciting!
No.
It was exciting. Burn Stewart, when I joined Burn Stewart, it essentially was a blending house, and as a blender, I kind of controlled everything. But we were restricted because we didn't have our own distillery set up. Maybe wasn't quite as fulfilling as perhaps other experience before and after have been. But nevertheless, it was a great learning experience. And from a blending point of view, it was really right up there. And I was there initially with under Terry Hillman for about 8 years, and then we actually bought the company, and that became a more interesting time because then we very quickly bought Deanston Distillery, recommissioned it, and in jig time we bought Tullamore and recommissioned it. And these were, you were given the freedom to define what the personality and the DNA of these distilleries would be going forward.
And now we see these distilleries putting out spectacular single malts so consistently. So, to go from a blending house to, a powerhouse of single malts is pretty spectacular. When you were doing the blending, where did you primarily source from?
We virtually from everywhere, without telling tales out of school. Certainly we got a lot from Diageo, quite a lot from Chivas, and generally from the we're almost driven by, I mean, what grain? The grain was always the starting point with blended whiskey. We get some from the barter. And my favourite grains, and it may not be everybody's cup of tea, but right, would have been the Barton, Girvan, and Strathclyde.
Mm. So use that as the foundation and
Yes.
build from there.
And these distilleries were well balanced, and they weren't. They allowed the malts that you use in the blend to express themselves. They didn't dominate the blend. They balanced the blend, and that's still the case. You know, Girvan and Strathclyde are still great grain whiskies.
Yeah, I think we need to do a grain tasting, Russ. There's so many brilliant grain whiskeys out there. I gotta put together something.
Yeah,
Sure,
agreed.
that.
For sure, they have an important place, and understanding them would be a nice step forward for
And
grain.
I think for many of us, we're mostly familiar with grain whiskeys as a component of a blend, right? So being able to experience them as their own bottlings, see what their personalities are, I think is always very exciting.
For sure. I think we've had a couple here and there over the years, but yeah, they're not a full tasting as far as I can remember. Russ would probably be more apt to answer that.
I have a full tasting of grain in the basement, but
yeah, weren't we sending messages back and forth like a month ago about exactly this?
yeah, pretty much. But then I
Yeah.
started opening them thanks to Everton, and
Have.
started enjoying them myself, and I was like, well, I don't know, like maybe I just want to have these, but yeah, we'll get a grain tasting at some point, or have
Maybe we all just need to go to Edmonton is what's happening right now.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
I do believe that the
Yeah,
last
let's
tasting
do it.
we were talking about doing grains.
Yep, that is true.
Yeah.
I think we were talking like North British, Cameron Bridge, Carsbridge, Invergordon, but yeah.
I think that's going to be a fun one. But let's keep things moving on here a little bit and get back to a single malt. One that played a big role, I think, in your career, Billy, BenRiach. So we are going to be enjoying a lovely BenRiach today. This one, a 27-year-old single cask. This one was sold through the co-op in Alberta. I've had this one before, and it is absolutely brilliant. So I'm so excited that we're going to be jumping into it. So this one was distilled in 1985, bottled in 2012 at the ripe old age of 27 years, being in a bourbon barrel. So this one is ABV of 49.9%. And our tasting notes include Père Tartatin, rolled with barley, developing phenols, hold the tram, bring complexity towards the end. So that's a lot of words. Let's talk about what this smells like.
It's a lot of words, and interestingly, we talked briefly about Longmorn. BenRiach was actually created to be Longmorn number 2. It was a very close neighbour. It was located about 200 metres from Longmorn. Shared the same process water, and it had a kind of staccato history. It produced and then didn't produce. It would be down and then it'd be up again, and until we actually acquired it in 2004. And you know, just as a kind of milestone, 2004 there was something like 18 distilleries mothballed in Scotland. You know, we think that maybe today we are experiencing some difficulties. Not that I share. That I don't think there is a difficulty just now. We certainly don't recognise the narrative, but there was a difficulty then. And I remember when we went to try and acquire BenRiach, we had a look at a number of distilleries that that could and were being made available. Cappadonnacht being another one. BenRiach had style. It had nice stills. It had its own maltings, which we recommissioned and started using on our kind of planned campaigns. But classically, it was the cask we're looking at, American barrel, single cask, just under 50%. What you'll be finding and looking for in here is definitely you'll be finding loads of vanilla, butterscotch, coconut, honey. And if you look, I'm very sure my memory tells me that old BenRiach typically would display some tropical fruits.
Definitely up on that.
For sure, there's wisps in here. I'm the son of a carpenter, and I get a dusty workshop, definitely with a good amount of sawdust. There's also that sweetness you would expect from the cask itself. A lot of depth to the character. The sweetness. I'd say like almost like a creme brulee, custardy note to it.
Russ is calling out coconut cream, malty biscuits, herbal notes, and pineapple on the nose.
Roasted coconut for sure, 100%. Yeah, this is really, this is an 85. I'm an 85 baby. So thank you, Russell, for the birth year bottling.
It's interesting in looking at the kind of origin of the cask. It's an American cask, probably Appalachian, and American oak has got a much higher coconut content than, let's say, European oak or other continental oaks. It's because of chemicals called whiskey lactones, and we find the intensity of coconut in American oak is much greater than you find in European and other parts of the world. So you should always, with American barrels, you'll always, if you look for it, you'll always find some coconut.
And I'm always looking for the coconut. Love that. Often find it in the virgin oak bottlings, which is always beautiful. So BenRiach was the move for you, Billy, from being from working for a distillery to owning a distillery. So
yes,
that's got to be a big change.
From a pressure point of view, it was certainly a big change. It was an exciting change. We had total freedom then to do things. And the things you look at are what, in hindsight or looking forward, what are the changes that I would make? BenRiach was too small to introduce long fermentation, although we would have liked to do it. We were selective in the barley varietal we used. We wanted to get as near to the genetic origin of Golden Promise as we could. And that would mean that we would sacrifice yield, but we are much more obsessed with flavor contribution rather than yield contribution. And recommissioning BenRiach was great fun. It was a terrific distillery, tidy, really, really clever setup, good water, soft water. And we did a lot of really quite clever stuff at BenRiach. And it was, I have to say, it was a big painful decision when we had to move on from BenRiach and the others, of course.
Mm-hmm. Well, some beautiful whiskey came out of that one. So, I mean, we might as well drink this one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Blanche,
everybody.
Blanche.
That's a palate.
Yeah, nice palate. opens up really nice in the mouth.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Complicated, complex, lots of things going on.
Yep, this is a roller coaster dram.
So Nicholas is giving us meringue with coconut off a beautiful dessert. Jake is giving us words I can't say while we're recording.
There's
some mango, cinnamon.
I get a bit of like orange zest.
Listen, you'll definitely get orange zest, and that again it's kind of wrapped around the cinnamon, the cloves, the nutmeg, and orange peel, orange zest. Sure, it's all coming from the lignans, eugenol and isoeugenol.
Really spectacular mouthfeel here too. Very coating. Would that be the fats and the lipids that are giving that kind of creamy quality?
Yes, but it's much more likely to be. It's an old whiskey. You're going to have a lot of big molecular esters in the whiskey, and if they're not giving you pineapple and mango, they're giving you mouthfeel. Although it's also the case that the tannins in the cask, as these are extracted during the aging process into the whiskey, they also enhance the thickness of the mouthfeel.
So fascinating.
Is the malting done at BenRiach, or is it from a malt house?
BenRiach, we had a campaign. I don't know if they still do it. I think they do. We campaigned 2 months in each year. We ran the maltings. If we weren't using our own maltings, we were using a company called Bourbon. But we did every year we had our own campaign.
Okay, nice. And I love with BenRiach how they've got some peated expressions, some unpeated expressions. How do you decide what you're going to run?
It's a good question, and let me tell you how the peated campaigns came about at BenRiach. When we acquired the distillery, we did a very intense understanding of the inventory that came along with the deal, and we discovered that actually there was a number of peated casks, and we kind of figured out that the previous owner of Pernod actually didn't have any Islay whiskies. And there was a point at some time during that historical period where the production on Islay was significantly reduced. And I think that encouraged.
I think at that point, Ardbeg was mostly mothballed, weren't they?
Yeah, and I could tell you, I won't tell you on the show that a story about Ardbeg, but it was mothballed, and so were a number of other Islay distilleries. So there was a shortage of peat, and that's probably why the previous owner of BenRiach decided it would make sense to actually introduce some peated campaigns.
That's brilliant. So were you expecting to find these peated casks in the warehouse?
No, I have to say, it was a very pleasant, but big surprise. And so we evolved Curiositas and Authenticus. And then we started introducing our own peated campaigns, maybe 6 weeks in every year.
Fantastic. Authenticus is just always, you see a bottle, you buy the bottle. Like you don't pass those up.
No, fantastic.
They're always fantastic. They're always interesting. They're always fun to drink. All right. So while we're drinking that, let's move things on a little further here into the refinement period. So now we're into 2008 to 2016. This is when most of our members were actually alive. We've got some young people. But this is expansion time. On from BenRiach into GlenDronach into Glenglassaugh. So new adventures, new distilleries, new whiskeys. What's happening in your mind right now, Billy?
at that time, I mean, the GlenDronach, the GlenDronach deal really came out of the blue, and it was a conversation. I took a telephone call from the UK chief executive of Pernod, and we had a good working relationship with Chivas Pernod. And the conversation really was that they would like us to buy GlenDronach. And of course, we we saw this as being wow, because GlenDronach truly is and continues to be one of the great Highland distilleries. It was under the custodianship of some great distillers in the past, and we were lucky at the time to inherit one of them. So that journey was fascinating. It was another challenge, though, to understand where we were with the inventory. What did we inherit? What was the quality of the maturing casks? What did we have to do to define the then personality, and then define the new full spirit and the structure and the personality that we wanted to create going forward. And then hopefully, having done our homework and all the actually in-house recasking, that the what we inherited and the work we had done would merge seamlessly with what we were doing with the new spirit we created ourselves. The new spirit was terrific. We changed almost nothing in terms of the cut. It was a small distillery, GlenDronach. It was a million and a half litres of alcohol. So it was limited to what other things we could do. We would have liked to have done long fermentation. And you might ask, why long fermentation? The reality is that during the process of fermenting, the actual conversion to alcohol is done in about 52 hours. We would then, as we do now at GlenAllachie, the challenge would then be to actually start rousing the fermenter and introducing some air, oxygen. So we're looking for some oxidation of the alcohol, some of the alcohols to aldehydes, and then to acids, and then to be esterified. So we're looking for more fruity notes, more peachy, apricot notes. But we couldn't do that at GlenDronach, so we continued with the regime that was there. We weren't disappointed. The spirit was great. It was full-bodied. It was a real Highland whiskey.
Yeah, I know we've got a lot of GlenDronach fans here. The first whiskey of the tasting certainly kicked things off nicely, and we've been lucky here in Canada to get some absolutely legendary single cask bottlings. Some of them have even gotten names, right, Russ?
Yep.
The Stonker.
Stonker.
Yeah.
Which one was that, Russ? I forget.
Oh boy.
It was a PX one, wasn't it?
Cask 66.
Cask 66.
Everybody knows. There we go.
Yeah. Well, it's also my birth year.
And sadly, we were always a little bit nervous of putting too much attention on 66 because it was the year that England won the World Cup.
The World Cup, yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Here in Canada, we're careful with 68. That was the Leafs.
Yeah.
With their last Stanley Cup.
Was it 68 or 65?
Who knows, Roy? It was so long ago it doesn't even matter now.
We all
froze over anyways.
We all have our burdens to carry.
Yes, we certainly do, don't we? All right, well, moving on to our next whiskey here. And the next distillery is Glenglassaugh. So this one from 1975, bottled in 2014 at the age of 38 years, having been in a Moscatel hogshead, one of my absolute favorite types of wood. This one bottled at 42.4%. And Pat, all I see is fruit salad. I don't need anything else. This is all I need here. black pepper, spice, orchard fruits, oak, fresh barley. I mean, this one sounds pretty good to me. What do we got, Tim? You're muted.
Thank you. My dog is running around like an insane person right now, so I was trying to hide the thunder paws that are happening up and down the court. But yeah, it's very, very fruit forwards here. A lot of really lovely sweetness. I do get a slight like a little bit of like grape skin, like that tiny a tinge of sour, but not in an off-putting way. Very, very sweet, malty, almost like a shortbread. But yeah, that yellow fruit sweetness is just all up front. I get a little bit of bubble gum on like the Big League Chew end of the spectrum. A slight note of ice wine too, like the noble rot quality. Just really, really lovely, light feeling. Maybe a touch, a tiny bit of there's something at the back of the finish of the nose that I'm having trouble identifying. Almost like a pear, not a pear, a peach pith, like the pit itself. Really, really nice.
For something almost 40 years old, I would expect significantly more oak.
Yeah,
And it's not. It's not over oaked at all. It's
I would. Is
so
this
nicely balanced.
Do we know if it's a finish in the Moscatel?
Yes, it's a Moscatel finish.
Okay, yeah. I would think like maybe like a third or fourth fill sherry to start, where it just lets time develop with the character of the spirit. I love Glenglassaugh. When I saw that this was on the tasting, I was thrilled. This is up there among some of the older ones that I've personally had. Yeah,
very interesting distillery. Location wise, it's on a cliff overlooking the North Sea, so it has quite a maritime influence. But interestingly, Moscatel casks we find are not universally all that popular. And it's a shame because, I mean, I particularly wanted to write down things like orange blossom, jasmine, peaches, apricots, and honey. And of course, you're going to have levels of butterscotch vanilla coming from the original experience in fresh American barrels. But the Moscatel casks, like wine casks, they're not charred. So you can actually leave the whiskey in these fortified wine casks for quite a long time. And it takes, the absorption into cask takes quite a lot of time because they're not charred, and so the channels haven't opened up. You've got a very slow absorption, so it's unlikely you're going to overkill. But I agree with you, Moscatel. I think they're fascinating casks. They deliver some incredibly interesting, complex, challenging flavors. And I love the orange blossom notes. I think they are just fantastic.
So good. I think with GlenAllachie, you used Moscatel in one of the Wood series, didn't you?
We do, and we've got a lot of. We have a significant number of Moscatel casks maturing. The destination of these casks has some uncertainty.
I can tell you where the destination of some of those bottles is going to be.
This guy.
And me too. I know for a fact I'm watching 2 bottles of GlenAllachie and Moscatel in auctions at the moment. Don't blow me out, anyone who's hearing this.
All right, well, who wants to drink some Glenglassaugh? Let's go.
Oh my gosh. Me.
Lunch, everyone.
Lunch.
It's a really interesting distillery in a sense that it actually didn't have a spirit still. It had 2 wash stills. And my understanding is there was some logic to it because there was a proposal at one time that they would actually they would ferment and do the first distillation there, and maybe do the second distillation at another distillery. That was blown out of the water by the SWA, and rightly so.
Sure.
But the constructed distillery actually probably was made to accommodate that proposition.
Interesting. This is
So they had no spirit stills at that point.
They had no spirit stills. So we actually, when we ran it with the spirit still was actually a wash still.
Wow.
So
And
neat.
actually, I think that's still the case today.
Very cool. We have a couple people saying that favorite. So Alain says favorite so far in the chat. Salty Maritime. I get almost like a wisp of some old Pulteney. In there too. The
kind of the same kind of location. Pulteney is up in the northwest, whereas Glenglassaugh, but right on the coastline. Glenglassaugh is, in fact, if you look across the North Sea from the Glenglassaugh facility, the next stop is Norway.
Wild.
Amazing.
Russell's got herbs, vanilla custard, and honey. There's absolutely an herbal note to it. I haven't quite nailed down where I feel like it sits. I don't think it's dry. I think it's a fresh vegetal quality, not like something you find in the medicine cabinet. The nose has changed quite a bit to me now that I've tasted it. You don't always find that with whiskeys. Sometimes they're very in line with each other, but yeah, I almost get like a hint of wintergreen at the end of the nose now that I didn't notice before.
These flavors are coming from a group of components called terpenes. They will give you herbal notes, vegetative notes.
Yeah. Yeah, I know in the States, we've legalized marijuana a number of years ago, and I'm always fascinated about how different terpenes affect flavor on that side of the spectrum. So that absolutely makes sense to me. I'm getting like a pine quality, like an old knotty pine, like paneling kind of a note to it.
Again, that's pinene, which is part of the terpene family.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like the number one thing that you'll find on the marijuana side of things. But really, really nice, fantastic. I get like a kumquat note to the palate.
Yes.
There's I want to maybe it's another pitted, not peat, maybe nectarine quality too.
Yeah, I get nectarines. Yeah.
Just really, stark different from the last two, and I love that about our tastings, that we're always guaranteed this journey that's fantastic, but really, really cool notes. I love Glenglassaugh. This absolutely exceeded my expectations, which were high at the beginning anyway.
Of all the disappointments for me when we sold these three distilleries, the big disappointment was Glenglassaugh. We had so much unfulfilled things to do there.
I can imagine. Wow. There's just so much good. I don't know if I could pick between the last three, though, which I like the most. They're all so unique. Very, very cool.
Well, that brings us to our next era here. Mastery, 2013 to 2016. So this was the full the portfolio with BenRiach, GlenDronach, Glenglassaugh, and then the period before GlenAllachie. So, what was it like, I guess, managing three different distilleries with such different character, different spaces within the industry?
It was exciting, for sure. It was exciting, and it was a time. It was a time in the evolution of single malt where there was market evolution happening. People were becoming more aware. The footprint that we occupied in terms of our kind of target audience was fascinating. A bit like your own club, a lot of knowledge. People were prepared to experiment. They were prepared to get involved in a new adventure. And actually, the world was also changing. You know, we were always a little bit conservative in the West. We were seeing the world through fairly narrow lens, and we should have been more aware of what was happening. You know, the deconstruction of the USSR, where lots of new countries opened up. Countries like Kazakhstan, which is now a terrific market for us and a fascinating consumer. China was opening up. South Korea was becoming amazing. Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, and even now, Vietnam is becoming both interesting, fascinating, and really well-educated market. So the world was changing. The consumer was more informed, and our challenge was to engage with consumers who were inquisitive, curious, and questioning. And that's where the world was going. So, the sad thing was that we abandoned, or we decided to sell the business. At a time I thought it was too soon. I was for sure very disappointed. I was not a willing seller, but I had two partners who were actually terrific guys, and they were for selling, so that's how it happened. But there was a lot of unfinished business in my mind, and that's how GlenAllachie came around. It was a simple conversation. I got a call from the MD of Chivas and said, "Billy, we would like would you like to buy? We would like you to buy." I thought, okay, that sounds a good idea. Have I lost you?
No. Myke is he's got a muted situation too. I think we were all just
enthralled.
Yeah, enthralled, and overwhelmingly inspired.
Well, I mean, GlenAllachie is, the chapter that I think really hits with all of us, the change that we've seen with the product coming out of GlenAllachie, the quality, the
consistency,
the consistency, and as you said, the inquisitiveness.
Right.
You've taken some big swings, and a lot of them have hit, and we've enjoyed them very much. So let's get into the first GlenAllachie of this tasting. This is the present. So this one's a 16-year-old, distilled in 2006, bottled 2022, at the strength of 48% in Mizunara virgin oak. So this is not a cask you normally see out there, outside of, say, Japan. So what made you decide to go with this type of cask, Billy?
I think we had a recognition that the industry had, I was going to say nervous about using Mizunara cask, but I think it was more about the cost of the cask. These casks are incredibly expensive. They cost about £3,000, £3,200 each. So there was a kind of pushback on the actual cost. But for me, the fascination was, look, we need to better understand how single malt Scotch can interact with Mizunara. It's not just the preserve of Japanese whiskey. But we made one significant change. We decided to char the casks, whereas most Japanese distillers don't char the cask; they only toast the cask. And what that did, of course, what the charring does is creates a whole host of other chemical reactions going on, but it also gives you a much quicker absorption of the whiskey into the cask, and I suppose, in theory, a quicker extraction of the flavour components from the cask. My expectation was always that, by definition, you're going to get incense notes, umami notes, sandalwood notes. We knew this was a characteristic that was familiar, but with the actual charring of the cask, we thought that we would also be compounding the opportunity by creating other chemical reactions in the cask. So that we'd start getting some of the effects from the eugenol and the isoeugenol that would give us a much more complex and a broader spectrum of flavours. Listen, we were nervous. I have to tell you, we were nervous about releasing this as a Mizunara cask. But you know what? I am totally on board with Mizunara cask. I think they're fantastic. And if we get the first part of the maturation right, then the contribution from the Japanese oak is just amazing.
And had you used Mizunara before?
Not in any great depth. In most cases, almost probably by proxy or accident. So it was a conscious and deliberate decision that we took. We knew that financially it was a significant investment, and I have to say, when it worked, we have continued with significant investments. They're great casks. Somebody mentioned earlier about how the industry has been shy about showcasing just how wonderful virgin oak casks can be in terms of behaviour with Scotch malt whisky. I think we are certainly on that journey now. We are totally in love with the contribution of virgin oak casks, and we are on a very in-depth journey now, understanding the difference in experience from the various different genuses like Petrea, Robur, Mongolica, Mizunara. We've even got some, and I can tell you, when this comes out, you will be blown away. We've got some casks from virgin oak casks from Colombia and South America. They are what was the word? Stunning,
stonkers.
Yeah. These are amazing. They're amazing, and what we can do now with the variety of virgin oak casks we have, we can play around with combinations of, let's say, Mizunara and Scottish Virgin with some Oloroso. We're making whiskey today that would have been unthinkable 50 years ago.
I don't know about y'all, but that makes me excited.
Yeah. Very.
That makes me very excited.
The Quercus Humboldti that I've tried, the Colombian oak, I've been blown away by. I had an Isle of Rassy that was fantastic, and at least one or two other. I think I'm forgetting where it was from, but yeah, I'm very excited to see more of it.
Listen, Humboldti is fantastic. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Is it the density of the cell structure that sets it apart?
It'll be part of it, and it may very well be that the heartwood is they're probably very, very old. They're cut from very old oak trees, so the heartwood is probably quite a significant portion, and that's where you get. Once you get the whiskey deeply into the heartwood of the oak, then you're suddenly getting some very, very interesting, intense, complicated flavors.
Totally, and that's the case with Mizunara, from my understanding as well.
Yeah,
the trees are 200 to 300 to who knows
years old.
Yeah.
And we've tried to replicate Mizunara. We had a look at You got some oak from Siberia.
Wow.
Same latitude as Hokkaido, relatively same climate. But as it turned out, the genus was actually from Armenia. It had somehow relocated itself up to Siberia. It wasn't.
Wow.
It wasn't. However, Mongolian oak and the genus of Mongolian oak is Quercus mongolica. It's also interesting to note the genus for Mizunara is also Quercus mongolica.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
But listen, they're not exactly identical, but there are characteristics that are similar.
Very cool. Oh my gosh, love it.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we bottled. Russell kind of gave me a long length of rope to potentially hang myself with, but we bottled a Lacheg that was finished in Mizunara as our first offering,
Well done.
from our group. And I thought it was absolutely spectacular. So I can't wait to get into this one too. And
I think we probably should.
I think undeniably.
Everybody's
Don't
talking
deny
about
yourself.
sandalwood. Let's drink it.
Yeah, for sure. There's great notes on the nose in the chat too that I'll get back to. We didn't forget.
You guys drink, I'll read. So we've got a lot of sandalwood. Breakfast Epiphanies, very nice. Persimmons with pomegranate.
Love that one.
Patchouli dreads. But yeah, sandalwood, ginger, cedar, orange, citrus oils.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one's definitely got some very specific notes coming out of there.
Listen, I don't know who identified pomegranate because it's a difficult one to identify. But there's a real logic to finding pomegranate because it comes from the tannin.
It was Brandon, yeah.
Brandon, cheers to you, man. Good call out.
Call.
There's sweetness on here too that I was having trouble with identifying until I tasted it, but I think it's confectioner sugar, like just almost like an ethereal sugar when it hits your tongue and it just dissipates immediately. That sweetness that hits and then disappears.
And you know, that's a very interesting observation because it'll be one of the sugars that will be fructose, arabinose, xylose that comes from the kind of decomposition of the celluloses. Because we char them, you might also get some caramel and toffee notes as well. But these kind of icing sugar notes are absolutely coming from the wood.
That's so interesting to me. I love hearing the background on that. This is stunning. I mean, the alcohol at 48% is perfectly integrated. The complexity continues to build and change over 30 seconds to 45 seconds, and the lingering finish is just so lovely. I'm a monstrous fan. I'm gonna be looking for like a case of this after the tasting. It's absolutely fantastic.
No, this is well balanced.
Yeah.
Billy, was this cask charred or was it toasted?
It was toasted and charred, unlike the Japanese who only toast.
Amazing.
Very cool.
You can almost taste that char.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely can.
Tim, do you know if the Gunkrioken was charred or just toasted?
The one that we have, as far as I know, it was. I mean, absolutely, it was toasted. I'm supposed to be chatting with Philip tomorrow, so I'll double check. But I would almost think for sure North Point may have given it an extra charge. I got up for a second so that I could pour a glass of the Lacheg and compare back and forth between them. And they're obviously
it's not a subtle whiskey, so
no, and and like I have to kind of train my nose to ignore the peat and the diesel and the the
The
machine shop.
Lechegginess.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get underneath them, but to me there is that underlying sweetness and depth that Mizunara gives. So although they are totally almost polar different flavor profiles, there is definitely some like nuances that I could pull from the GlenAllachie. But to me, this is just a totally different animal. The Lecheg I find to be like more like situationally perfect, whereas the GlenAllachie, any time of the wake up in the morning, I could have a glass of this. Right before I go to bed, perfect, have a glass. Give me a glass in the shower, I'm totally happy with that. Like I don't think there's any circumstance where this wouldn't be a good dram.
This is an absolute desert island bottle.
Totally. I'm not joking when I say that.
Yeah, you're gonna get stuck on a desert island. You have a case. This is what you want.
100% happening.
Billy thinks we drink a lot now.
No, I'm encouraging you.
Well, we have to encourage you to make more.
Mm-hmm.
Billy doesn't.
All right, so that was
Oh my
the
gosh,
present.
so good. So good.
Let's look to the past. So next up is another 16-year-old. This one is the past edition. So distilled in 2006, bottled in 2022, matured in sherry butts and bottled at a strength of 57.1%. So our notes are fig syrup, muscovado, sugar, roasted pine nuts, notes of heathered honey, crystallized ginger, and dried apricots. Sounds pretty delicious to me. So, Billy, this series, 50th anniversary, we've got the past, the present, the future. What went into building this out?
It was a moment in time where it was an opportunity to reflect on just that, the past, the present, and the future. And we knew where the past was. We knew the present reflected our then thinking, what we were doing with the inherited inventory, the kind of direction that we wanted to take the personality and the DNA of the whiskey towards. And that was a significant challenge, I have to say, because when we acquired GlenAllachie, it was a distillery that had operated under the radar. It had little presence, probably none, being showcased as a single malt brand. And that's a good thing. You know, the reality is that there was relatively little bad or good news that we had to confront ourselves with. But it was a time when we would reflect and say, this is what we inherited and what we did with it in that time in terms of wood management. And it was just a moment to say, look, really, it was, I suppose it was a point of reflection for we the blenders and the other senior people team saying, look, this is a point to remember. This is where we were. This is what we've done to the inventory we inherited. And it's a journey towards the next definition of where the personality is going to be.
Fantastic. And as you say, yeah, GlenAllachie did not have a big profile, certainly in the single malt world. So as you said, that's a good thing. There wasn't a lot of, baggage that came along with that. But what kind of challenges did that present?
We inherited, with the acquisition, we inherited something like 50,000 casks. And the first challenge is to understand, A, what was the originally like? What were each of these casks like? What was the quality of the wood? And the reality is that, we had to take a lot of these casks and recask to create the personality that we wanted to showcase the distillery. But we also had to recognise what we were doing. We actually changed the cut at GlenAllachie. We took the cut a little bit lower. We wanted more higher alcohols. We wanted to do long fermentation. We wanted to have the whiskey and cask for a long time in very rich wood. One of the reasons we took the cut lower is we wanted a more muscular spirit, because we knew that we were going to be using very rich casks, virgin oak casks, very rich sherry casks, and we needed to make sure that the spirit was not going to be overwhelmed. It had to be muscular enough to actually cope and live comfortably with the very rich wood that was going to be in for a fairly long period of time.
Fantastic. Yeah, you don't want a delicate spirit that's going to be overwhelmed by wood and time. So dealing with perhaps a new make that was more delicate than you wanted to work with, maybe some wood management that was not up to your standards. Was it difficult to go out and find the type of wood that you wanted to integrate into the production?
No, the answer to that is no. We had good, because of our experience historically, we had good relationships with cooperages all over the world and bodegas in Spain. So the reality was actually sourcing the cask was relatively easy. Understanding and creating the experience was, listen, it was a nervous because you're never quite sure where you're thinking. The science is compelling. You know the things you're doing are right, but you're dealing with wood. An oak cask has got a mind of its own, and so the levels of toasting and charring really important. Even the reality is, even before you make the cask, the drying of the wood, we insist on air drying, certainly for a minimum of 24 hours, but better if it's 48 hours. Now, you might ask, why do we do that? The reality is that during the process of drying, of course, it's not going to be perfect weather all the time. So there is, you get rain will come, it'll wash out some of the tannins. But on the surface of the cask, it also creates a kind of film that allows bacteria to start actually engaging with and start releasing enzymes that then penetrate the cask and start the process of the decomposition of the structure or some of the chemicals in the structure. So it starts the process of breaking down the lignins and the tannins and indeed some of the cellulose and the hemicelluloses. So there's so much you can do in terms of genus choice, the air drying, then the process of toasting, charring, medium, light, or heavy. So we can prepare the kind of the cask ready for the liquid coming in, and then we will religiously follow the development. And I'll go to the distillery maybe 2 or 3 days a week. We'll certainly in 2 of these days we'll have 400 samples lined up just to evaluate how the spirit is evolving. And we look at determining the ones that are behaving as we expect, the ones that are behaving maybe a little bit more spectacularly. And there's also some that are maybe just underperforming. And these are the ones we really focus on. We want to make sure, what should we do these? We need to put them into another style of wood. So there's a lot happening. And we're preparing ourselves for 10 years out, 12 years out. The one thing you have to have in this industry is patience. Nothing happens quickly. but you need to know that what you want to happen is happening. And if it's not, then you have to take steps to determine another avenue or passage for the journey.
That's fantastic. Well, let's see what happened with this past. We've been enjoying the nose on this.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I get saddle leather, apart from the expected sherry influence, which is just so deep here.
Mm-hmm.
Like a plum compote.
Yeah, definitely plums.
The spiciness of the wood is there for me too, in a really, really nice integrated way. It's not overcompensating. I do get the sweetness of the spirit still too. So it's kind of like the umber around a lunar eclipse. Like you get that depth of the character of the distillery, but the cask is just shining out around it. It's what I identify with as a like perfectly middle aged GlenAllachie in sherry.
Yeah, it's definitely an excellent combination. Nicholas is giving us toasted cinnamon raisin bread and a bit of coffee.
Oh,
Smells like the morning routine.
Great call.
I think that would be almost to the letter how I would describe it.
Yeah, great pull on that one for sure. Now, is this all Oloroso, or is there potentially other types of sherry?
Oh, I'm pretty sure this is Oloroso, and the characteristic, that overwhelming characteristic you should get from Oloroso is dark chocolate and mocha, dates and figs.
And it's all here.
Seriously.
I think if you look for it, you'll find it.
We don't have to look for it. It comes looking for us.
It is right there for you. This is not a dram, knocking silently at the back door. This is a firm letting you know that it's there.
That's for sure. That's how I would describe it. Yeah, it's telling you it's there.
The absolute strength of it. Once again, we just went from 48%. Now we're at 57.1. So that this is no holds barred, full flex of the distillate of the cask. I love just how present it feels in the mouth. I mean, the legs on it in the glass are very slow to develop. It sits. The finish is just like absolutely never ending. Oh,
yeah, it's a beauty. I'm going to drink it all.
And it's comfortable at this strength. It's comfortable in the palate.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
There are things that work always, and GlenAllachie and sherry are certainly that one of those combinations that work.
For sure.
It's interesting on the science and mouthfeel. The tannins play a really important role in the thickness of the mouthfeel. They also play an important role in removing any kind of fiery notes in the spirit. And there are two chemical components called gallic acid and ellagic acid, and we call them they move around the whiskey and they absorb and capture all of the kind of free radicals that give you these fiery notes in whiskey. And that comes from the tannins. So it's another part of how the wood is so important in delivering the kind of smoothness in the mouthfeel.
Yeah, it's lovely. The viscosity is beautiful.
I might have missed it, but this is not a single cask, right? It's a blend of various casks.
Yes.
Brandon has a slight hint of blood orange bitters. We do like cocktail on Fridays at the store that I work at, and I made old fashions yesterday, and I can absolutely agree with the blood orange bitters because I used them yesterday. I spilt some on my hand and licked them immediately afterwards, and it has that drying component, which I definitely also get around the back of the cheeks with this whiskey. I mean,
there's also some nice cinnamon in here.
Totally more subdued than previously, though. Not like the red hot cinnamon. I would put it more at like a cinnamon stick in a mocha, in a hot mocha.
Yeah, Russ called out Christmas cake and plum compote. Yeah, this baby does got back.
Russell
okay.
also just said Tim was making the old fashioned in the shower at 9 a.m., which may be true sometimes, but
I mean, as you do.
Yeah. Oh, the Christmas oranges from Kent, great call there too. Yeah, this is lovely. I have a question for you, Billy. One thing that I'm very, very sulfur, like it comes out jumping at me with a lot of other whiskeys. I have never once, and I've drank loads and loads and loads of GlenAllachie. I've never gotten a sulfur note on GlenAllachie whiskey. Is there a reason that you could think of that would be?
Yeah, there's a simple reason. Our arrangement with all of the bodegas is that as soon as they empty the sherry cask, we tell them you mustn't put any sulfur candle in the cask. What to do is to actually bung the cask immediately. We'll have a vehicle waiting to take the cask virtually once they've dumped. They'll be at the distillery within 5-6 days, and we will have transferred the whiskey into these casks within the next day or two. So the casks are not sulfured to protect the cask against bacterial infection. They come straight. There's no management interference in terms of trying to somehow prevent any bacterial development. The casks are emptied, bunged on the vehicle, and within 7 to 10 days, they're on site and they're filled with the whiskey.
So it's timing. That's
it's
the
timing.
Key. Once again, the making sure that all like the attention to detail. I'm just mystified, and it's inspiring.
Have you ever lost casks due to the requirement of not using the sulfur candles?
No, I don't think we have actually, and not in all of my experience in the industry. I mean, we have had we have had one or two hiccups, but not with sherry casks. It was with some Hungarian Tokai casks that had lain around the winery perhaps for too long, but more importantly, they had got some water into the cask, and some acetone notes had developed. These were impossible to work with.
Well, it's too bad. Those Tokai casks can be absolutely lovely.
They can.
It's like everything. As long as you get the process right, they'll be fine.
Sure. Wow.
I love that. And wood management has been, such a huge thing, certainly at GlenAllachie. But it seems that has been a key to the success of the whiskeys that you've put out, no matter where you've been. So how do you approach wood management and ensuring that you've got the best casks, the best wood? Is it the cooperage? Is it the where these barrels are coming from originally, or is it all of that?
I think it's a bit of all of that, although certainly the relationship we have with our local cooperage, Speyside Cooperage, is an extremely good one, and they are extremely helpful and can be persuaded to participate in some quite interesting challenges. So these relationships are really important, but we buy a lot of constructed casks from places like Mongolia, Japan, of course. The ones in Colombia came in fully constructed. And we don't buy, in fact, we rarely buy shooks. When we're buying the casks, we tend to bring them in fully constructed. So yeah, understanding who we're dealing with, understanding their standards, just having good relationships that are founded on the basis of a recognition that quality is everything.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah, and it's so reflective in the whiskey.
It totally is.
You know, from the point of view of the consumer, it's so reflective. So, you know, much appreciated.
I mean, I make the point to as many people as I'm talking to that we're lucky. We're a private, independent company. Our ambition is we're not obsessed with consistency. We're obsessed with perfection. We don't have the burden of having a brand that has got historical equity presence, and so maintaining consistency is the only thing that's important. We have the freedom to be pursuing it. I mean, my expectation is that every time that we make something in our core range, that the next one is going to be better than the last one. Does it always happen? Maybe not, but our ambition is that it should.
I mean, I think the most identifiable way to quantify that statement there is the cask strength batches, and they're exactly that from my perspective. Like each one, I'm like, how could you possibly set the bar higher than number 5, and then number 6 comes along, and it's just it's amazing from the consumer side to be able to put that amount of like levity, and you just know that what you're going to get is going to be the absolute top tier that it can be.
But you know, in the territory we occupy, that's where we have to be. You know, we have to be better. We have to be better than the big boys. We have to make sure, of course, they don't tiptoe into our territory, and we also have to make sure that we don't tiptoe into theirs. So the challenge is always on. But you know, the one thing that, and the one principle we have in GlenAllachie is that if we can't reach perfection today, we have to reach tomorrow.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And it is true. I mean, it does give you more latitude to experiment, to have adventures. You know, you think about other examples like Lagavulin 16 has to taste like Lagavulin 16 every year.
And listen, it's brilliant, but they have the handcuffs on. They have a level of consistency that they have to fulfill. We don't have to play by these rules.
Well, that's an interesting segue to a whiskey that doesn't play by anybody's rules. And it's one that I've been very excited to get into. And that's going to be the Future Edition. We're getting smoky. We're going to have some fun. This one, 4 years old, 2006. No, that's not right. Model year 2022. So yeah, this one is the Futures Edition. Cinnamon, stewed pears, toasted almonds, heather, honey, pipe tobacco, smoked barley, vanilla toffee, and orchard fruits. So we've kind of gone along a progression so far tonight, and this one is we're going out of bounds here, and I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of those notes. I think where they missed out is the savory side of the nose.
Mm-hmm.
There is this like barbecued tri-tips right off the bat for me. There is like like smudging sage. There's this vegetal note. I'm not sure where this peat is, and I'm sure Billy can tell, but there's a farmyardy quality to this that I really only get from Isla peat. Maybe some Ardmores kind of tiptoe along the range of it too, but the peat quality is so fantastic. The sweetness is there too. I mean, if you nose this blind amongst a grouping of Highland and Island peated whiskeys, there is no way that someone would tell you come up with 4 years old for this. There's some depth here that speaks beyond the years for sure.
This one it's interesting in the sense that we wanted to showcase this at quite an early age as part of, the past, the present, the future. And it is a peated expression, but we didn't want to regurgitate a style that was Isla peat. We wanted to create a peated experience that didn't have the medicinal note that you get in a classical traditional Isla peat. So how did we go about achieving this? If you've been to Isla, you'll notice that there are no trees on the island. So the peat is formed from the decomposition of grasses, herbs, seaweed, particularly seaweed, which gives you the kind of medicinal iodine notes in Isla whiskies. We wanted to create a peated style that was missing the medicinal notes. So we knew that by choosing peat from the mainland, and there is a peatery about 30 miles from GlenAllachie called St Fergus, and the peat there is a decomposition of trees. So it's non-medicinal, and peat's non-medicinal, but it's sweet. It's got it's a kind of sweet peat, almost the tobacco leaves and notes. And that was the kind of creative thinking behind it. We got in touch with the local maltster, and we said, look, we want to use this peat and we want to get phenols in the malted barley somewhere between 60 and 100 ppm. And in the spirit, we wanted it somewhere between about 30 and 35 ppm. But it's also significant that, and we use some rye casks because rye casks tend to give you more spicy notes than or heavier or more protracted spicy notes than conventional bourbon casks. But it's interesting that if you really want a peated experience, drinking between 4 and 8 years is the best time to drink a peated whiskey. After that time, the actual influence begins to diminish. Now, the whiskey, of course, continues to improve in other aspects, but the kind of beefiness, the full impact of the peat will start diminishing after 8 years. Between 4 and 8 years, you're getting the full peated Bunah.
Yeah, I think, and have experienced exactly the same sort of thing with as far as the phenols within peat. I love the effect of different areas. One thing I get, I want to like go back to what I said earlier about the Isla side. You're obviously 1,000,000% right that the iodine isn't in there, but I do get a little bit of like the I'm trying to remember the verbiage that they use in Scotland, but it's like the bandages. Is it plasticine? No, it's not plasticine.
Plasters?
Yeah. And Russell says in the chat, fresh cut lumber. But one of the things that I got immediately that brought me to a very specific place was blue spruce Christmas trees. When you first cut
the
Christmas tree down, that and blue spruce, I love the look of it. Also, the needles aren't super sharp like a lot of the other trees, but there's this like undercurrent of spearmint in it also. And this peat is just so it's unique. It kind of sits and flows between different other styles, and it's mystifying to me that you could make that happen with such short amount of time in a cask. It's a magnificent whiskey.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, we're getting great notes in the chat. A lot of barbecue stuff, rye bread, toasted marshmallows, vanilla, wet fermenting hay. Some mention of an 80s metal band. The fresh cut lumber, beef jerky, and barbecue ribs. Love that. Definitely getting
That's
that.
like yeah.
Octawalker.
Russ got dill, which is interesting because that's something that you normally get from rye. And rye is not something that you see used very much in whiskey maturation, Billy. So what made you decide to go that direction?
We wanted to capture some of the unique notes that you get from rye casks, and I suppose what drove us really was we were fascinated by the kind of spicy notes in rye casks, and they work. You know, we don't use a lot of rye. You're right. We don't use a lot of rye casks, but we thought it was right, and we continue to use it for our peated expressions.
Brilliant. Yeah, I can think of GlenAllachie, and I mean, who else uses rye?
I think Ian Palmer at Inchdairn, they will use rye.
GlenMorangey.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, GlenMorangey does have a special edition that they use rye, yeah?
And Rassy, Isle of Rassy does as well. But it's, count on one hand type of a situation.
Yeah. Well, I'm drinking this.
Yeah.
Too much talking, not enough drinking.
Me too.
To you, Billy.
To you, Billy.
Slancha. Thank you for joining us, Billy. So much. So appreciated.
Yep. Thanks for
listen, guys, if you want to ask any more questions, I've got 5 minutes.
That's fair.
Go.
It's getting late on your side of the pond.
Yeah, true.
It's okay.
What's your favorite experiment you got going on? What's something you got in the lab that you're really excited to see the results of someday?
Yeah, look, we're constrained in many ways. We're constrained by the definition of Scotch whisky and the control of the SWA. But a lot of the work we're doing with virgin oak casks is kind of cutting edge stuff, and it's not just one of the things I really want to have a look at is combining Mizunara and, for example, Scottish virgin oak. I think that combination will blow everything out of the water. And my plan next week actually is to do some pilots using Scottish virgin and Mizunara, and then to look how that combination will impact once we introduce some PX and Oloroso, or maybe even cellular sherry casks. There's always something kind of flipping around in my mind that I think that must be quite interesting to look at. But the one on the horizon that really excites me is what we're going to do with the Mongolian oak. We'll see. The Russian oak is also terrific, but right now, anything Russian is difficult to bring to the market.
Billy, I have a question maybe as an importer. Sorry to interrupt after so long, but we get emails in our office, it seems like every week right now, from other whiskey distilleries looking for distribution in Canada, distilleries that are poking around to see if anyone's interested in buying distilleries right now. So the obvious question for Billy Walker is there any temptation or opportunity to buy more distilleries in the future?
Look, there's temptation, of course. There's a temptation, but there is. I know that in the States and maybe also in Canada, generally, there's a kind of feeling that liquor industry or the spirits industry is kind of in a bad place at the moment. That narrative we don't recognise. I mean, almost everything we produce just now is pre-sold. So my take is that if you deliver quality, the consumer in the market is sympathetic and it's out there ready to buy. But going back, yes, we would be interested in bolting something on. We'll see.
Billy, having working for like a company like Hiram Walker or JP Weiser's now, what are your thoughts on the direction they've gone over the past couple decades? Or do you even follow them anymore?
I think in truth, I don't follow them anymore. I mean, what I would say is that Ballantine's blended whiskey is one of the best blended whiskies in the world. Their ownership now is actually Pernod. I don't know. It's difficult to gauge where the big companies are going or thinking about just now. We're just happy to be operating in a footprint where our connection is with consumers like yourselves. I mean, tonight's been a fantastic conversation. People who are interested, curious, inquisitive, and have an appetite to experiment and to learn.
Fantastic. Well, any other questions for Billy before we let him finish his night?
Yes, I would like to ask one question. With several distillery cutting back production and the market slowing down right now, what is your approach to moving forward and standing out?
I'm sorry, just what I said in the last comment. We don't recognise that narrative that the market's slowing down. Our problem is we haven't produced enough inventory. We need to be much more ambitious in terms of how much we produce. You've got to, it's a classical statement what I'm about to say is, if you're not talking to your consumer, somebody else is. So don't be lazy. Get out there and make it happen. There are still some great products in the market, and there's an audience out there that still enjoys drinking. And the further east you go, the more enjoyable, or the more it appears they enjoy it. I mean, let me give you for example. We started trading in Vietnam about 4 years ago. It's a huge market now. South Korea is unbelievably huge. And it's what I said earlier about seeing the world through a much broader lens. It's not just about Europe and North America or South America. It's about these emerging markets where people are big disposable income, curious and interested, inquisitive about whiskey. In China, I mean, I did a tasting in Shanghai some months ago. There were 500 people there. The mix was 50% male, 50% female. The age group was about 25 to 45. Disposable income high. I thought, this is the kind of platform that you can build on. And that's where the world is. It's not necessarily about the traditional Western world where we see opportunity. There's opportunity everywhere.
Yeah, it's a big world. There's all sorts of opportunities all around. And just to go back to your point about the experiments that you're doing, the new casks, all the fun stuff that you're excited about. If you're ever looking for help with market research, we're your people.
I'm listening.
We're very happy to help. So that brings us.
I got a last question.
Oh, we got a last
Billy,
question.
Have you ever thought of reviving Colburn, or is GlenAllachie the final destination?
No, Colburn. I think Colburn is already being revived. I'm not sure how quickly. But it would have been an interest. I have to say, it would have been an interesting one. But at the time when we owned BenRiach, it was too near BenRiach. It would have. It wouldn't really have offered a major extension to the kind of range of distilleries we had. But listen, Colburn will have an interesting future. Good question.
Interesting. Thank you so much, Billy.
Yeah, thanks so much, Billy.
Thank you very much, Billy. We really appreciate your time, your insight, generosity. It's fantastic to spend some time with you again. And I think I speak for us all when I say thank you so much.
Well, guys, thanks for the invite. It's been equally enjoyable for me, and keep in touch. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Billy.
Certainly will.
Cheers. Thank you,
Thanks.
Billy.
Thank you,
Good
Billy.
night.
Good night, buddy.
Thank you, Billy.
Good night.
So for everybody else here, we'll continue on. We have obviously something important to cover off here.
Yeah.
And that would be, what's your favorite of the night?
This is insane. Wow. Are you kidding me with this right now, Myke?
What's that?
I said,
You're
are you
asking
kidding me
what his
with this
favorite
right
snowboard is right now.
You better
and
make
also
this a one
to
and
answer
two.
to answer the earlier question, yes, you can have 3 consecutive no dog.
Yeah,
tasting.
you really, really can. Russ, you got the hat trick, buddy.
It's all random, man. I don't know anything about these things. Just a fluke, man.
I left enough that so I could go back through. Thank goodness, because everyone, I felt like I was like, oh my gosh, there's something new here to this one. To me, this is an almost impossible question to answer.
This BenRiach that's been sitting, it almost reminds me of like like a melted Reese peanut butter cup that's been in the car, or it's like that gooey chocolate. So it's quite peanut. It's not a bourbon peanut, but
like when it falls into the indistinguishable zone between the seat and the center console, and you find it like a year
the zone
later.
of no shame where you just make sure no one's looking first and go for it.
I'm with you, Jake.
Yeah, it's down there. It's gone forever.
Myke, you can't close this quite yet. I'm still working my way through.
No, we only have 14 of 20 votes here, so there's some thought going into this one.
I will tell you.
Job on that tasting too. I feel like I'm rosy just from the experience. It's tough to like be objective with these whiskeys right now, and just the insights too, and some of like the cask knowledge and yeah, incredible.
How
work.
amazing is Billy Walker? Like,
Dude, fully overstimulated, overwhelmed, and very, very happy is how I feel right now.
Yeah. He's very generous with his time, like he was last time. And, you know, there was a question I was going to ask him just about what's the possibility of getting him in person here to do a tasting with us live, but I'll talk to him privately. And
yeah, dude, you have the contact, so.
He did say keep in touch, so there's.
I'm texting with him right now, so.
You're gonna have to stop being so humble at some point here, Russ, to just own that success and man, just getting a guy like that to come and give us the time and deliver these bottles and the presentation, all the work from not only you, everyone else. So just, dude, it blows me away. Great job.
Thanks.
Well done.
Well, it's very rare that we have. Early on in the tastings, we would have representation from the brands, but it's very rare when you have the opportunity to have a Billy Walker. You just have to take it and just see where the tasting goes. But aside from that, man, Tim and Myke just nail it every single time, and that's what it's all about, right? But I mean, total master class.
Myke's question.
Tell James Ford to plug his ears, but it looks like he's gone already. So
yeah. Myke, you were on your game today.
Thank you.
Give it up for everyone. Give it up for Myke right now.
Yeah, like seriously,
crap, man. There was not a quarter of a second of dead air, and you were ready with these incredibly in-depth and inspired questions. I just sat back in awe. Not that I don't normally, but today especially, wow.
Dan Rather up in this.
Slow clapped him in.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've been kind of like jotting down questions probably the last 2 or 3 weeks that I wanted to ask Billy. And I know that, we're all pretty aligned in the things that we want to know about whiskey and the journey. Pat had some great questions that were very much aligned with what I wanted to ask in the initial versions of the deck that we were putting together. So it wasn't hard to think of the cool and crazy shit that we want to know from a guy like Billy Walker, right? Like it's an incredible opportunity. So I've been very, very excited about this. And Pat, you did an absolutely bang up job of putting the deck together, the artwork, the content,
Sure.
just the presentation of everything was fantastic, man. Thank you.
My
I got
pleasure.
this one, and I was like,
Kudos
do you
to
know
Pat,
I
too.
could go
Totally.
that's that. I was gonna
Thank you
say
so
this
much.
was
This one was the most
iPhone.
stressful one, right? Because I didn't want to make any mistakes. I
hear that.
wanted to make sure I got things right, and I learned so much. And I think Billy could have stayed another like 2, 3, 4 hours all day. We would have listened to what he had to say. You know,
Oh yeah, we
amazing.
could do like a full day Dram City event with Billy. It would be amazing.
Yeah,
That's a great idea.
the
I'm
guy
happy
is
basement chained up Billy. Let's go. All our questions.
Yeah.
the depth of knowledge, and then like the actual comprehension and understanding of how everything gets there. That is so singular. Like there are amazing distillers, there's amazing blenders that are out there, but like from my perspective, he sits amongst a very small few that is just the total package of what you would like, market understanding. Like his comments about the like the consumer worldview. I work in a retail environment. I worked at brand levels. Like looking big, but acting small is so critical today. And like he's just the embodiment of every facet of the marketplace within single malt.
He has, he's incredible. But I think what's special about this is, last tasting we did was GlenAllachie. The fact that he came on here and went through his entire career, there's got to have been some NDAs along the way, and he talked all about it. And
or maybe not. Like maybe it, like
you don't give a fuck.
Exactly what you're saying, Russ. I totally do. But like I some part of me also like he was so quick to answer. He was like to me there was none of that sense of like I can't give away certain things. He was just super like full open book.
I think at 80 years old, you're like, I don't give a fuck anymore. And what the whiskey game is about is sharing and tasting it together. So he was like, fuck it. These guys are complete nerds.
You've seen it all. You've seen it all after 15
like,
years.
say, Pat, when I unbox this MF, like I got goosebumps, like, and I don't get that often. It's like when you listen to a really good song for the first time, like, oh, like, it just hit that note. So I was joking with the iPhone. It's like when I unbox an iPhone, even like falling out, it has that just satisfying sound coming out, and it's the package, the presentation, the delivery, the experience, everything. Like, yeah, it's just it's because of the love of the game, and that's what I got from Billy. It's like someone that's had all the success in the world that could have rode off in the sunset multiple times, and it's still like, no, this is a problem, an equation. I'm like gonna figure it out because it's always changing, and I don't know, just seeing that curiosity and like just a hunger and I don't know, desire and willingness to just keep trying stuff and sharing things and new experiences, and keep learning. I feel like that's what we all have in common. That's why we all come to these tastings and drink this incredible whiskey. And I got that from him. I get it from all of you. So I don't know. I truly appreciate like where art and science and craftsmanship come together. Like that's my place. Those are my people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Cheers to
the
that.
physics,
Well done.
the physics behind the whiskey, which is amazing. He was naming like molecules related to flavors and to viscosity. Like that's crazy.
I was so here for that.
That was
Oh,
amazing. He's like, I could talk for hours about this. I'm like, well,
And I was like,
please
yes.
don't let us stop you.
next tasting starts at 8 a.m., guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Here we go.
All right. Well, we got some numbers to share here.
What the
Yeah, baby.
really?
It's interesting to me
It's
because
rigged.
every whiskey got a vote.
Mm-hmm.
Every single that doesn't happen.
That's super true.
That doesn't happen.
That is
Usually
amazing,
one,
actually.
two, maybe three whiskeys will get votes.
Truth.
This is the first time I can think where all 6 whiskeys got a vote for favorite.
Can we do a second pick? Is that
Yeah,
possible?
we could.
I would be really interested in that too.
Mm-hmm. 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 But
I'll tell a lot here. The second pick.
so let me put that together.
Jean-Philippe says it's rigged.
Rigged.
Yeah. Honestly, Mike, really, really well done tonight. Like,
Dude.
and Pat with the PowerPoint, just, we showed Billy what we're all about. And,
sure.
I'm
very proud of the group right now.
yeah, I think we have a lot to be. He recognized that we know what and that bodes well for the Canadian and U.S. markets. Like, he knows we're no joke over here.
Totally.
Yep.
Well, I mean, nobody does it like NWO, right?
Truth.
So the next one, we should all have one of his bottles and do a bottle pop at the same time.
We had
Well, I mean, I was ready.
that planned, but Billy was so limited with time. So,
Yeah.
And
I
you
mean,
know
it's
what?
fair. He's 5 hours ahead of me, right?
Yep.
On the East Coast. So I mean, he's a trooper. He stayed till after 10.
Definitely, yeah.
It is time.
I'm taking my last sip of Glenglassaugh, and I'm kind of sad about ending the glass.
I was right there. Actually, no, I still have a tiny one. I'll join you in the final one, David. To you,
Actually,
buddy.
final one's tough to come back to. Like I still have a little bit, and relative to the others, maybe it's just like the palate and what we've been through. But it's like it's
Oh, yeah.
for sure. It's not the whiskey.
I got to bail out, but before leaving, I got to add my little comment also about this evening during the afternoon. Myke, I review my app pretty high. It was in a good way, like a movie script. Everything was kind of perfect. Everything was kind of on rails. So it's just kind of making something attracting. I'm pretty sure for Billy to kind of recreate the event into a future endeavor. So thank you.
Well, I hope he had as much fun as I did.
usually we like to stay off the rails, David. So, like when we have a guest like Billy, well, we'll keep her on the rails for a bit, I guess, eh?
Yeah, that's why I kept those French words off the recording.
We saved the tabernacle for the after drams.
Nope. So I'll say goodbye to you. I have to go get the kids at grandma's, and thank you very much, everyone. And a big, Russell, all of
Well,
this is
before you
because
go,
of
let me
you.
share the second favorite results.
Oh, yeah, true.
There we go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ben voyons.
I mean,
Hey, JP, c'est un plaisir que tu sois là en passant.
this kind of tracks. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I'll be honest. I'm really surprised.
Really?
Yeah, because I thought it was good. Like they're all super bangers, but I wasn't moved by the third one that much.
Yeah, same here. Wow. I mean, I was Glenglassaugh 1, GlenAllachie present 2. So this,
Yeah, me too.
the fact that GlenDronach got none as a second is the biggest shock.
And you know what? I don't think it's the notes; it's the mouthfeel, the lack of ABV, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a factor.
that was the 140% whiskey, right?
Yeah.
And was it a bad whiskey?
That was
Absolutely
No.
not.
No.
That was the starter dram.
Yeah. 30-year-old starter dram. No big deal.
Hey, you were gonna say, sorry, I know you're checking out here. Sorry.
Yeah.
I gotta
Goodbye,
get back to
everyone.
work too, guys. So have
Bye.
a good one.
Good
Au revoir.
Same
afternoon.
thing on my end. I'm out. You have a good one.
Okay, bonsoir.
Thanks,
Bonsoir.
Steve.
So are we in bottle pop territory? Actually, we're still recording, right?
Yeah, let me wrap it up here, and I'll try not to actually close the.
Well,
Deux secondes,
we got a
Nicolas,
bottle
qu'est-ce-
pop. We got a bottle.
What is that,
Oh,
Nicolas?
yeah, let's do a bottle pop. Let's do a bottle pop before we turn the recording off.
Anyone that's got bottle pop, do it.
I have a 10, but it's still a pop.
I do, but I have to go to the bathroom.
Nicholas, is that the which GlenAllachie is that?
The 2006 GlenAllachie Virgin Oak Barrel.
Ooh.
196 over 282. Natural color. So
yeah, baby.
I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say that's probably not gonna be terrible.
I think
I
it's
think
gonna
it's
be
pretty good.
lovely.
Let's break some corks.
Yeah. Oh, no, clean one.
Very nice.
So yeah.
Jake's digging something out. Look at the color on that.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Deep.
Oh, that smells amazing. Oh my God. Yeah, it almost like it feels like the smell is almost like the future one.
Oh yeah, the Mizunara.
Less peaty.
Nice to see you, Rohit. Have a good night, buddy.
Thank you, Rohit. Also, big ups to Rohit for always being an awesome inclusion on the tasting and getting samples to the U.S. people. Much love.
So Jake's going to crack an unrelated bottle. What do you got there, Mr. Livy?
Oh, I'll show you. Oh, here, hang on. That's why. I was gonna say, I love how Rohit joins and will like say one thing the entire tasting every time, but it's usually like, "This is a really good whiskey." You're like, "Fuck, it is." That's right. Like it's
Rohit understands the assignment.
Exactly.
Unsung hero, Rohit.
North Star Highland Park 25.
Oh, nice.
Ooh.
Thank you, guys. I was just taking care of Roscoe. It's a pleasure, Tim, to make sure that the samples get to you. And this was one of the best tastings I've attended because Billy is great and all of you are great. So it was a lot of fun. I have to go. So
once again,
Rohit, if you find yourself in the New Jersey, New York area, you have full carte blanche. I'll give you my like list of whiskey. Anything I have is open to you at all times, my man. Thank you.
I hope I got that little bit of sound. I was trying to time it right with a good.
Okay, take care.
There we go. Beautiful. All right. Well, let's wrap this up. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for Architects. It was an absolutely epic whiskey journey with Billy Walker. Thank you, Tim, for walking us through all the whiskeys, all the notes. Thank you, everybody, for the notes and the comments and the questions. Russ, you put together a beauty. 3 in a row, no dogs. Patrick. All right. So thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you on the next tasting. Bye-bye.